I made a mistake. Here's my Shop Vac. I'm sure quite a few people have a similar model. This is the 12-gallon, 5 peak horsepower model. Yeah, I made a mistake. I put a box on top of here while I was running this thing, and I'm working on my chainsaws over here, and I use it to suck down some of the debris, and there was a box on top of there, and I think the thing overheated. So most likely the thermal fuse popped. The question is, where is it? How do I replace it? What do I replace it with? So let's do a video here and see what we come up with. I'm just going to take this thing apart a little bit and see if I can be helpful to hopefully a few people online. So I've got the Shop Vac apart with the filter off. I don't know exactly where to go next, but I think it has something to do with these screws. So all those screws around there I think I'm going to take off next. Don't know how to take one of these apart. Never done it before. Need to get to the motor. So we'll do that. Obviously, before you start taking things apart, the cord needs to be unplugged rather than plugged in. So make sure this is unplugged. So, and it is. Let me take these screws apart and see exactly what's underneath here. This may or may not be important, but orientation. This whole thing, it's round, so I just want to mark what lines up with what there. So let's take this off. Don't know how to do it. Okay, just take a screwdriver and lift up. Pull this thing off and see what's under there. So this thing, I just hit this with the impact, 13 millimeter. The nut comes off. Looks like there's Allen in here too, in case you're having trouble getting it off. Looks like a bushing. Best to keep all these in order. Metal tray. Make sure to clean off all this stuff before I put it back together. So now the question is, do I take... Let me hit this with the vacuum. But it looks like there's screws here, 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 here. And if that holds the top on, then maybe that's a better way to access the motor. 4 screws are out. This seems to lift up and want to separate. So let's flip it over, see if it separates. Yep, top comes right off. Looks like we have some wires. So right here, I'm going to remove that just by pulling that. Gives me a little more leeway. So it looks like 2 connectors here to the switch. So let's undo those. There's a connection here, connection here. So it looks like the black line goes over to the switch, the white line goes over to the motor. Looks like a quick connect too. So I've got the motor unplugged from the switch, white line goes to the motor. That's nice to reference later. So let's see if I can undo that from the motor. Oh boy, that's easy. So now this whole piece is now untethered. Put it down here. Now we're just dealing with the motor, which does not look like it's easy to pull out this direction, so let's flip it back over. And see how easy it is to pull out this direction. Take this cover off, 2 bolts. Please keep in mind I am not working off instructions of any kind. I am simply following my nose here. Those are longer bolts as opposed to the shorter ones we took out before. Whoa. The whole thing just literally falls out. Don't know if there's an orientation here that makes it more correct. It looks like it's hexed. Let me see if I can put that directly back down that way and then give it some orientation. Again with a marker. It doesn't need to be much of anything, as long as you have something to orient it. So now we're just dealing with the motor. Now, it might be easiest just to replace the motor. I don't know. Maybe it's really easy to replace the thermal switch. If I can find it. If I can find it. Heh, I think I see it. That cottony thing inside there, I'll bet it's under there. How do we get to it? Again, all I'm doing here is following my nose. Looks like 2 bolts on either side. Probably want to take the brushes off first. Let's see. Let's do the bolts. The brushes are off. This is going to come off. The question is, how do you maintain what went where? I gotta label all this with some masking tape, probably. And that way it's all properly labeled so I know what gets put where. It may not matter a hoot, but brush just comes off there. 2 screws, this whole thing will just lift up. But let me label it. So I've got this labeled so I can remember it. Now hopefully I can just pull the black off. So now the black wire goes somewhere. Good. This should just fall apart now, hopefully. Yep.
Oh, Daddy. What's that?
Here's the... Oh, the brushes want to go in. I see. Okay.
What's that?
Good thing I labeled it. What's it? This is a motor. That's Christopher. This is a motor. I'll bet that is the thermal fuse. How I get to it, I have no idea. So I've got this oriented 2 here, so let's take that out. Now I go back to this thing. Now there may be some hope. Still willing to bet that's the thermal fuse. Let me get to it and we'll see what we can do. So this contact, whatever that ends up being, that contact, the first thing it does is it goes here to the thermal fuse. So now I've loosened that. Bring back the cotton here. There it is. That is a thermal fuse. We can check it. So set the tester for ohms. If you put the contacts together like that, you hear a sound. If this is indeed, it's going to be difficult to do. If this indeed has a broken contact, you're not going to hear any sound. This side I'll hear a sound. This side I should hear a sound as well. No. So there's no connection between the two sides of the thermal fuse, which means that fuse is done. And that's what's holding up my shop vac from working. So I need to replace that thermal fuse. So the numbers on the fuse, I'll just read them to you because the odds of being able to get this. Microtemp SVMBDG G4A01, some symbol that looks backwards. Looks like a RI, but the R is backwards. TF 121C, so 121 degrees Celsius. So I've switched over to my other camera here, so hopefully now we can get a little better quality video. Went down to good old Radio Shack, picked up a thermal fuse. The SKU on this is 270-1322, 264 degrees Fahrenheit, or 129 degrees C. This was 121, so this will be close enough. And I'll put the number in the description of the video. So what we've got here, really the only way that I'm going to be able to get this in there is to solder it. What I'm going to have to do is solder this in here, and to not blow the fuse, you need a heat sink on the fuse, which is simply known as an alligator clip. Or I wonder if I can use my... I bet I can use my mosquitoes here. Hold that in, and that'll keep the heat more or less away from... Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so this video is not about soldering, so I'm gonna get this soldered in here. So here's what we've got soldered in. Have to use a heat sink on there, otherwise you will blow the fuse. Don't want to do that because it is a heat fuse, that's the idea. Okay, let's check with the meter. So now we have continuity on both sides of the fuse. So now the whole unit should indeed run. Let's put this back together. I'm going to move this cotton cover back up over the fuse. So now I look for my mark to line this up. So I have my mark. This lines up that way. Spins without interfering with anything else. Okay. top back on. So I should have made some more marks as to what side's what. But going back over my previous video, I can actually tell what does go to what. So pull the brushes out. Brushes out. This sits down. And I remember the thermal fuse itself was on the same side that the white line was, but it was on the brushes side. So I put the brushes back here. And then the brush goes back plugged in there. And this is the black line. So let me get that. Black line. There's the black line installed. And now we put the screws down. There. Okay. So that's all together. Does it spin? Does indeed spin. Best I can tell, it probably doesn't even matter which direction that goes. So now I have to have something to hold it down. 2 screws to hold this down. Probably the long ones. Good. Motor's down. So now let's put the top back on the motor here. So here's the cap. Black line goes here. White goes under there. That's the tricky one. Okay. White goes to that terminal. I forgot. That was a little bit tricky. So I have to get this up and in there to the motor. So in hindsight, probably would have been more convenient to do this ahead of time before I put the motor down, but that's okay. So the spade connector's on for the white. Okay, we're gonna put this line here. Just front or back? Front or back? Goes down, flip back over, 4 shorter screws, just plastic, does not have to be on with high torque. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's put the impeller back together. Does not have to be on super tight. Although, you know what? Let's put a dab of blue Loctite on there because you don't want that coming flying off. I want to be able to get it off, but flying off would probably be a bad thing because this spins very fast. It's a little sharp, so be careful. So put the cover back on, marking up my lines of orientation. Gonna put a couple in just to get them started. Overall, I'm actually fairly impressed with the design in the sense that this is fairly simplistic. I understand it's just a vacuum, but for no instructions, I was able to get this, no instructions, nothing to follow here, was able to get this apart, take it all the way apart, relatively easily, relatively quickly, go down to a local place, get a part for cheap, it was $1.99 for a thermal fuse, and make the repair. It's possible to have this repair easier, I think. It is possible. It would be nice to have just a quick removable part, but since we don't have that, this is not too bad. I'd love to have something from the outside where you could, actually a resettable thermal fuse would be great. Preferably one that blows before the internal fuse goes. I might actually ultimately be able to set that up, but for now, this is a really cheap fix. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.